A leader who's finally succumbed to powerful political headwinds.
Last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today.
The Prime Minister, after long resisting calls to resign and spending the holidays reflecting, now says he will step down.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.
Outside his home at Rideau Cottage, Justin Trudeau repeatedly described himself as a fighter.
Every bone in my body has always told me to fight because I care deeply about Canadians.
But staying on as leader is a fight he couldn't win.
It has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
Those internal battles over his future becoming untenable after last month's stunning cabinet resignation of his top lieutenant, Chrystia Freeland. Trudeau's Atlantic, Ontario and Quebec caucuses all warned he's lost most of their support. Out of the Liberals' 153 seats, those regions make up 131 of them.
We are right now the longest serving minority government in history, and it's time for a reset. It's time for the temperature to come down.
Trudeau says the House of Commons has been paralyzed and unproductive.
Parliament has been entirely seized by obstruction and filibustering and a total lack of productivity over the past few months.
The Governor-General has granted Trudeau's request to prorogue Parliament until the end of March, as his party picks a new leader.
Mr. Trudeau was right making the decision he made, even if it will cost us a few weeks before we get into elections, which is absolutely required.
Opposition parties continuing to vow to vote non-confidence and bring down the government as soon as possible when the House returns.
New Democrats will be voting against this government for an election.
Everything's out of control, and now the government is out of control. This cannot go on. We need a carbon tax election now.
Parliament was supposed to resume from holiday break at the end of this month, but proroguing it until March 24th buys the Liberals some time, but not a lot to have a condensed leadership race.
And Ashley, I suppose, of course, the Liberals hope that this moment is the game changer for them.
Adrienne, they do hope Trudeau's departure changes everything. Polls have suggested the Liberals under Trudeau could have been headed towards not just defeat, but decimation in the next election. MPs want this move to rescue their party ahead of what could now be an election campaign as early as this spring.
All right, Ashley Burke reporting here in Ottawa. So attention now turns to that Liberal leadership race on a very tight timeline. Over on the Hill, the growing list of names believed to be interested in the top job now includes 7 current and former cabinet ministers, as well as a former BC Premier, a former MP, a businessman, and a former governor of the Bank of Canada. In other words, this could be a crowded contest. Kate McKenna now with what we know about the race to become the next Liberal Party leader.
With Justin Trudeau's resignation, the race to replace him is snapping into focus.
Today is tantamount to the starting gun of the leadership race. Before long, we're going to be consumed with that.
Nearly a dozen Liberals are rumoured to want the top job. Among them, former BC Premier Christy Clark and former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney. He's called dozens of MPs since Boxing Day.
Mark Carney is a great candidate from every perspective. He's a centrist. He is smart.
Former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland's cabinet resignation kick-started the events that led to Trudeau's resignation. She's not ruling out running for leader.
I think Chrystia Freeland is certainly a viable leadership candidate. She has a lot to offer, as do many others have a lot to offer.
A source says Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc is very likely to run for leader. Other high-profile cabinet ministers said to be considering running include House Leader Karina Gould, Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson, and Transport Minister Anita Anand.
I know from across the country there's a number of Liberals interested in running.
But whoever becomes leader will be inheriting an unpopular party weeks before the government could fall.
This is yet another seeming existential fork in the road for the Liberal Party. We can't get 20% or less in an election campaign. We have to run the best campaign possible.
There's a lot of baggage that comes with the party and the current government, as in the Trudeau government that we've had for several terms.
The Liberal Party hasn't announced how or when the next leader will be chosen.
There will be a leadership process and the rules will unfold over the coming weeks.
But they've got a tight deadline. Parliament is prorogued until March 24th. An election could happen soon after.
Those who are wringing their hands saying we don't have enough time, we have time. I would like to see a leadership contest go 60, 70 days. Let's end it, say, the end of March. Let candidates come forward, present their vision.
So far, only one person has said he's planning to run when the rules are announced, and that's former MP in Montreal businessman Frank Baylis. Other camps say they want to see the rules and know whether cabinet ministers are allowed to keep their portfolios before they decide to launch a campaign. This evening, Mark Carney issued a statement saying he'll be considering his decision closely with his family over the coming days.
So, Kate, this Liberal leadership race, it will be the first since the Commission started examining, the threat of foreign interference in elections. Any sense of how that will factor into this?
It's a good question. The Liberal Party in particular faced tough questions during the inquiry because members aren't required to be Canadian citizens. The party says it's about engaging as many people as possible, and for now, the party isn't signaling any plans to change their membership rules.
All right, Kate McKenna also reporting here in Ottawa. So let's bring in Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton. So Rosie, what an extraordinary moment. What are you hearing from your sources tonight?
Adrienne, we're told the Prime Minister is really at peace with this decision, even if he didn't come to this easily, even if it took months of pressure to get to this. And finally, it was really a case of numbers. There were just too many people inside caucus asking for him to step aside. And as he himself said, it would have been impossible to fight an election given that. So after taking the party from third place to a majority government, winning 2 subsequent elections and becoming the 7th longest serving Prime Minister in Canadian history, Justin Trudeau's time is now coming to an end.
And can you take us through what this means for the opposition parties? Because you can hear the wheels turning.
Yeah, for sure. And this changes a lot, right? All of the opposition parties wanted an election. They're going to get one sooner now, but perhaps not in the condition and the scenario that they wanted. This decision upends strategy for all of them. The Conservatives have been chomping at the bit for this election, but particularly to fight Justin Trudeau, who they knew they could beat. Now they're forced to attack an as yet unknown Liberal leader, which is why today you heard Pierre Poilievre and the other opposition leaders try to paint all Liberals with the same brush. The problem, not just Justin Trudeau, it's anyone associated with him. Any Liberal is bad for the country, is what they're saying. The biggest advantage still the opposition parties have here, though, is the fact that Canadians seem very interested in change, and changing a leader may not be convincing enough when it comes time for Canadians to vote.